the Israelis apparently went, probably with the help of Mike Huckabee, went to the surveillance tape inside the diplomatic terminal and pulled some clip. And they're, of course, getting all their little bots online to promote it, of me with my arm around somebody to show that actually I'm lying about what happened. That person was our driver who drove us from the plane to the terminal, a short drive. Very nice guy, good guy, Israeli guy. And right when we arrived, and he said, "Could I get a picture?" Of course. He's a nice man. So I just put my arm around him, took a picture. That's what that is. That was before the interview. It was before our producers were hassled by the thugs and asked ridiculous questions. It was before any of this happened. So that's just another installment of the propaganda war. Thought we'd give you the backstory on that.
It's Tyler, LPR. Look, if you saw yesterday's show, episode 304, we talked about Tucker. We talked about a few other things, but now there's more information going out there. We're going to talk about TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. No, Tucker Detainment Syndrome. There's problems out there. I knew there was going to be. There's no timestamp on that video. We're going to break it down. We're going to play Tucker's point of view on that. Do we just take everything he says verbatim? No, but we'll at least listen. We're going to also play some embarrassing clips of the interview with Mike Huckabee. I say they're embarrassing because Mike Huckabee is an embarrassment. Let's go.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
And here we are, everybody. I'll give you a little bit of time to come in. I did that last night. I played the countdown. No one really showed up. But please go and check out the interview or the episode last night, because I think we broke some things down. But we had to talk more about it. We just played the thing there with Tucker at the opening. I'm going to go back to the video. This is Tyler Yonke, LPR. I'm going to go back to the video, and we're going to play. Go to Substack, tyleryonke.substack.com for all your information and your needs and your wants and whatnot. There we go. I have a background that I was able to put up before, and somehow now it's not going up. It was the Israeli flag, and it's being blocked from doing that. Is crazy, and I thought it would be appropriate. Maybe it would be protecting us, right, today, but here we are. What's fascinating about the Tucker stuff, and do you always just believe what people tell you online? No, you're like, no, we're not going to just believe what Tucker says, but you'll believe what Ollie London, you'll believe what all these other people are saying. I just started to post a thing here because Mark Levin, there was a story there about the video that they showed from the airport, and he's like, this is proof he lied. And I'm like, wait, you're an attorney? You're an attorney? Mark Levin, right? Have you ever done anything more than write papers about anything? Have you ever had to go to court? Because you have got to explain things with evidence. If that video came in, and maybe we should let's go find this video. I'm going to break down a few things. Let's go to this video. Let's cut the music. Thanks for showing up, everybody, today who has. Here is the video, and here's the thing that talked about it, basically about this London person. He got this leaked video. How did this guy get this leaked video? First of all, there's no timestamp on it. It's literally 22 seconds, and you don't know anything about it. It's just Tucker going here. This guy's face is blurred out, so they obviously blurred out, and then he takes a picture with him, and people are outraged. They're like, oh, look how he... According to Tucker, this was before the interview even started. Okay, that's item one. Then you have idiots like Seth Dillon and everything. He's has a picture of himself. I am being detained and interrogated by Tyler against my will, as you should be against your will. Now, we can talk about what all, different things mean, right? Like the breaking all the little words down. Thanks for showing up here, Magoo. Breaking the words down, interrogation. What does the word detainment mean? All these things mean something, okay? And the detainment is simply about, are you able to leave on your own? Okay. Seth Dillon posted a photo of himself with Tucker years ago, after, I guess, an interview. And he goes, "This is after my interrogation and detainment." And I'm like, well, wait, those things mean things, right? It could be an interview, but if you're asking questions to the point of, this is going to be on the record or whatnot, it's a little bit different than just an interview. An interview can feel like an interrogation, right? I think actually the Mike Huckabee might be kind of like that. Detainment means something as well. Seth Dillon could leave at any point during this interview or this interrogation. Do you think when you're at an airport and someone has your passport that you are free to leave? Let's talk about that. No, you're not. So essentially you are being detained. Detained is a little bit different than under suspicion. It's also a little bit different than under arrest. Okay. These are, you're not able to leave. That could be also, kidnapping something. Okay. So these words have meanings. Now, there's a big meaning in what we need to have, because people are saying things like, Tucker, this shows he was never detained. He was never interrogated. It's interesting to note when I'm listening to Tucker's own words, and then you go back and you look at the article itself. Now, he said, I had no idea. I didn't reach out to these people. They reached out to me, and I sent them just a simple text. Here is what they actually quote in the article. First of all, let's go up here and say conservative broadcaster Tucker Carlson said he and his staff were detained in Israel on Wednesday following an interview, blah, 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 blah. Then it goes down. And then later on, here's the actual quote from Tucker. This is what he allegedly, from his point of view, texts to them. Men who identified themselves as airport security took our passports, hauled our executive producer into a side room, and then demanded to know what we spoke to Ambassador Huckabee about, Carlson told the Daily Mail. It was bizarre. We are now out of the country. Does it ever indicate here that Tucker said, I was detained? It says men who were interrogated. They hauled our executive producer into a side room and demanded that to know what we spoke to the Ambassador Huckabee about. Not Tucker, his executive producer. That is the quote in there. And so when people start saying, oh, there's a picture of Tucker, first of all, he's claiming that this was after the fact. Okay, the interrogations and stuff this picture was taking place. It's at the beginning of the video. If you're here and you didn't see it, you can go rewind it. I could play the clip. You know what? Let's just go right here. We'll play the clip. Here's what Tucker is saying about the time frame. Actually, I'll just hold off because I'm going to play like a 7-minute video of him explaining it. Okay, so we're going to break that down. So that's fact one. You have to know that Tucker is saying he never was the person that was interrogated. Okay, so he could be having pictures taken with him all he wants. It doesn't mean that someone on his staff was not being interrogated at the time. Okay. These mean some things. So now, you get pictures like this one. He said, he was never, he never claimed he was detained. This story doesn't claim that that's the case either. Okay, so we got some little conflict. Let's play this clip here one more time. I'm gonna play this clip of Tucker talking about the video, just that portion itself. Let's go.
The Israelis apparently went, probably with the help of Mike Huckabee, went to the surveillance tape inside the diplomatic terminal and pulled some clip. And they're, of course, getting all their little bots online to promote it, of me with my arm around somebody to show that actually I'm lying about what happened. That person was our driver who drove us from the plane to the terminal, a short drive. Very nice guy, good guy, Israeli guy. And right when we arrived, and he said, could I get a picture? Of course. He's a nice man. So I just put my arm around him, took a picture, That's what that is. That was before the interview. It was before our producers were hassled by the thugs and asked ridiculous questions. It was before any of this happened. So that's just another installment of the propaganda war. Thought we'd give you the backstory on that.
Okay, so I do find it interesting how people are coming out after him about this. And he explains the breakdown of why they were even doing this in the airport itself, if you believe him. Okay, and it seems to make sense. As a matter of fact, I would imagine he could release text messages and communication between the ambassador and him to do so. Let's go once again back to this video. This has no timestamps. So once again, this is what I said last night. You're going to bring this in as evidence? No, you're not. First of all, you bring that guy in, but you can bring a full thing of evidence of the video the whole time. That's because, as you would expect, you don't think that they were recording that interview that is just for security reasons. Okay. And if it's just for security reasons, you release this. Why not just release what the questions you asked him? Oh, Tyler, we can't do that. It's for national security, because then you would know the answers to these questions. Okay, then you know what? We're just going to have to take words for it. We're going to have to say, is Tucker lying, or is the government, the surveillance government of Israel lying? Okay. Or Mike Huckabee. We had an interview with Mike Huckabee, and I think that's something we also need to look at today as well. Okay, so first of all, let's go right into this. I want to play what Tucker Carlson himself breaks down of what took place. It's like it's a 7-minute 40 video. We'll walk our way through this and see. I have it 1.25. I didn't want to necessarily walk through the whole thing, but we're going to, because I think it's important to get his perspective, at least, what he's claiming to be out there. And it jives with me. A lot of it just jives. It's kind of the hinting that I was giving at last night, episode 304. Go check that out. Let's go.
At the end, we're set to fly out. We have a time. We have to get out, and the plane is sitting right outside, and we're ready to go. And for some reason, the Israelis still have our passport.
I want to say this. Sorry, I'm going to be breaking in. This is how we do it. What I want to say is go watch the interview with Ambassador Huckabee. Yikes. But he does better than Ted Cruz. One, he seems to be smarter, oddly. I know Ted Cruz gets a lot of accolades for being this amazing, he look at him shred people on the Senate floor and and he has all these gotcha moments, and he's argued before the Supreme Court. Okay. I remember watching the Tucker interview with him at the time and saying, this was like a ridiculously good, deposition of someone. Comes in there, the opposing party is just full of it, piece of shit, and you just work them over. And he got worked over. It was embarrassing. Huckabee does better. Okay. He's just as bad, but he does better at it. I think his demeanor is better. He filibusters a little bit better. And he doesn't just pontificate about things he doesn't know a lot about. He's thought about them. I'm not saying that how he's thought about them and how he says them make any more sense. There's a real big problem that Tucker just puts him into, pigeonholes him, of about this what Zionism is. And then it leads, and Tucker asks some questions. And then Huckabee, we talked about this last night with the deposition that we played with the guys. Like, you say one more word over, anything over, answer over 5 words, I'm going to effing kill you. And I've talked about that, which is like, you don't just give them doors to open up. I'm sorry, Huckabee kept opening doors. He'd make some sort of explanation. He would talk about something. Then Tucker wants to add, and then they're like, oh, well, why do you want to know about this? Because you just brought it up. You people are amazing, okay, about how you try to gaslight on everything. Okay. So, but in the initial part of the video, I would say go watch it, because Tucker breaks down. This is like 7 minutes, and I think it was probably 7 minutes before. He explains how they got into this situation. He didn't want to do an interview in the airport. He's like, I don't want to do an interview. And as a matter of fact, he's like, I imagine the room that we're giving this interview in is completely taped. They know everything about what's going on in there. And I think he's going to mention that there. So he didn't want to do it in there. And then, of course, we saw that last night on to X, a lot of people bitching and moaning about Tucker not setting a foot in there. Okay, well, they had a short time frame according to Tucker. This is it. Okay, point is, there's some explanation. Go check that out in his video. It's the first 5-10 minutes or so.
There are 5 of us there, and 4 of us are flying out on this plane. One's flying out commercial with our gear. So my business partner and I were standing there. We've never left the airport, never went anywhere. But our 2 producers have spent the night before in Tel Aviv. And they're called into rooms and given the third degree. Now, keep in mind, they're about to get on a plane and leave. In fact, we're late. We have to get out of there. We have a slot to get out. And security, whoever this is, won't let them go. So I don't really know what's going on at this point. I'm like, where are our guys? We got to get out of here. So one of them comes out and he says, that was the weirdest experience in my life. They asked me questions about the interview. Who did you speak to? Keep in mind, this was like 8 feet from where we did the interview. Well, the U.S. ambassador. I'm like, Huckabee, what did you talk about? Why did you ask those questions? Was it a hostile interview? And of course, everything in the diplomatic terminal is taped. Everything in Israel is taped. It's a police state. It's a surveillance state, obviously. You go to Israel, they put software on your phone.
I will say this, listening to the interview, Tucker goes hard at Ambassador about the right to have Israel's right to exist. First of all, where does this come from? And Huckabee goes down a legal perspective, which is just bogus. And then he tries to go down the biblical perspective too. And then it comes back to basically who can actually go? Is it a religious Jew? Is it a genetic Jew? What is it? And then he basically uses the example of Bibi Netanyahu. This is why this happened. I thoroughly believe it was some sort of attempt to set Tucker up. That's my prediction, okay? And all this is what happened as well. The stuff he said about in his interview, I could see why the Israelis, knowing who they are, reacted the way they did to detain him. I don't doubt that at all. You watch the interview and then realize it took place in this airport, in their right next to their security, and they wouldn't have done this. Of course they did. Okay, of course they did, because that's just kind of they shoot 14-year-olds in the head. Like, this is no big deal.
Everybody knows this. They're constantly spying on you more than probably any other country. And so they know the answers to these questions, but they're asking my producer, like, where do you work? How many people work there? Do you go to the office? Where is the office? What are their names? They're doing like an intel op and a humiliation exercise on my producer. This isn't security. We're leaving right now. And they're holding his passport. The interrogator is holding the passport in his hand as he's asking these questions.
Okay, let me ask you that. If you need a passport to leave and the person talking to you is holding it, are you detained? Are you detained? Because that seems to be the big thing. He was not detained. If the guy's holding the passport, is not letting you have it, are you detained?
So he's telling you
this. Believe Tucker,
this is the most outrageous thing I've ever heard. Huckabee's gone by this point. You're an American citizen who's just had a conversation with the U.S. ambassador, and some thug is demanding details of that conversation? I hope you didn't answer. And he's like, no, I didn't. I don't know what to say. Meanwhile, our last guy, the youngest man who was traveling with us, our last producer, is still in a room being questioned. So I pull over one of the guys and said, we got to get out of here. So I don't know what this is about. It's outrageous. And, there's nothing I can do at this point, but we got to go. And this woman comes up to me and says, look, let's just go. We're going to bring you to the plane and he'll come later. I said, no, it's my producer. He's being interrogated, asked totally over the top, fully inappropriate questions that have nothing to do with security at all. Pull up your website, show us your text exchanges with other people on your staff. What are your politics like? And again, what did you say to the U.S. ambassador and what did he say back to you? Those are not relevant questions.
No, those are just your typical interview questions for security reasons.
If you're trying to keep your country secure, those are intel questions. And they're over the top. And I said, I want this guy out now. Let's go. We got to go. And they said, no, just leave him here. We'll bring him to the plane later. Twice they told me that. Just leave your guy behind. No, I don't think so. So I was enraged by this. Get on the plane. We get a text from a reporter who somehow knew that this had happened. I have no idea how. I had no interest in publicizing it, actually. There was.
Okay. I guess we'll wait and see if this it's buffering for some reason. I mean, I hope I'm still producing out there. That's okay. 3:39. Let me just read up this thing here, and we'll see if we can. We could get it.
It was cordial.
Hang on, 3:39. There we go.
A long trail that showed that the U.S. Embassy had been coordinating against us in a public relations battle before we even got there. They were leaking that we demanded to do it at the airport because we were afraid to go into Israel. We're cowards. Okay, we're cowards. Right. And so I just said to the reporter by text, they pulled my guys into a room, interrogating them. This is outrageous, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The interesting thing is I never heard from Huckabee or anybody to this moment from the U.S. Embassy about what security did to my producers. They didn't ask us, and instead Huckabee went out and called me a liar. So it raises, again, the question, who exactly is Huckabee working for? We're American citizens in a foreign country. He's our ambassador. He represents our country. We pay his salary, but he's taking the side of the foreign government without even calling to say, hey, what happened to you at the airport? Did you get hassled? Did your guys get hassled? No. He just immediately repeats their lies without even consulting us. So, like, what are we looking at here? We're looking at the reality, which is if you're an American in Israel, you can be certain that your government will take the side of the Israeli government and not your side. And really, is that so different from the experience of Americans in the United States? Can you be sure that your government will take your side over the Israeli government? No, of course not. They will always take the Israeli government's side over yours. And that's the core problem. Even if you support a war with Iran, I think the most pressing issue for Americans is that we kill the Ayatollah or whatever. You still have a fair expectation that your government, because it is yours, you pay for it, it exists to serve you, and for no other reason, you have an expectation that your government will take your side against a foreign government. But the daily lived reality, the obvious truth, visible to every single American, is that's the opposite of reality. In fact, if you criticize Israel in your country, your government will work to censor you. If there's a standoff between you and Bibi, you know whose side your government's going to take, Bibi's side. That is not sustainable. That is too humiliating. It's too clearly an inversion of the natural order. Your government exists for you, not for a foreign government. But that's not how we live in this country or in Israel. So that's what we learned. And one last thing.
Okay, and the last thing he's going to say there is what I had already talked about, showed the clip there before about the video being taken. That's the last 1 minute part of that. And now, he brings up a great point, which is who is Mike Huckabee working for, okay? I did a whole complete episode, and it's called Make Espionage Act, Make the Espionage Act Great Again. Now, here's what, because I'm going to play some of this here. Here's what Mike Huckabee, I had pulled quotes. I'm sorry that I have myself in here, but I had pulled quotes from Mike Huckabee talking about, examples, we're going to juxtapose this, what he had to say about Assange as an example, and then Jonathan Pollard. Let's take it away.
Whoever in our government leaked that information is guilty of treason. And I think anything less than execution is too kind a penalty. They have put American lives at risk. They put relationships that will take decades to rebuild at risk. And they knew full well that they were handling sensitive documents. They were entrusted. And anyone who had access to that level of information was not only a person who understood what their rules were, but they also signed under oath a commitment that they would not violate it. They did. And I believe they have committed treason against this country, and any lives they endanger, they're personally responsible for, and the blood is on their hands. And in addition to their reckless irresponsibility and act of criminal intent, I think the New York Times has shown an utter reckless disregard for any responsible journalism by printing something that they know that they obtained in a way that is not appropriate.
All right, so remember, okay, so then I play a quote here of him, what he had to say about trying to get Jonathan Pollard released. And if you think that maybe he had a change of heart, that, Pollard was Pollard was before, and then he tried to get Assange killed
Act in benefit of Jonathan Pollard, who has spent more than 25 years in U.S. prison for spying for Israel.
He pled guilty. He served an extraordinary length of time for the crime that he was convicted of, to which he pled guilty. And it would seem to now be, I think, a matter of goodwill and a good faith gesture for the president to give clemency and release him.
But why a different attitude for someone that stole secret? Right. Why a different attitude, you loser over there, Tyler? And back to Laney over here. No, I'm not. I haven't had anything to drink all week long. So tonight, let's go. I'm not drinking anything now. I got water. My wife and I are going to go out for a little happy hour a little bit later. But I hope everything's going well with you, Lainey Habermock, if that is your real name. Probably not. Miss those good old days of the Lainey Habermock, the Lainey edits, if you guys want to take a look at that. Okay, let's talk about, just play some clips here, because I think that, go back and watch that episode. I do encourage you to watch my Espionage Act, great again. It compares the Soviet spies and the Cold War spying, which Jonathan Pollard was a part of, to how people like Huckabee. I put this tweet out earlier as well, which is you look at things he's saying and he's so defensive about questions about Israel. I'm like, there's an argument to be made, people. There's an argument to be made that Putin was less defensive about Russia than Mike Huckabee is about Israel in their respective interviews, okay, by Tucker. I mean, honestly, that might be a little hyperbolic, but it is almost shocking to see how pathetic this person is, Huckabee. Okay, so let's play some clips. We're going to play some clips here, and then we'll be done. It's just a quick Friday afternoon. This one is, these are all from the Tucker Carlson network, pretty much, him doing it. This one, let's just start out with this one. I haven't got to some of this in the interview itself. I'm only about an hour and a half or so in.
How many boots on the ground has the U.S. placed on behalf of Israel?
However many went to Iraq. We did that for Israel.
No, I don't think we did.
But you said we did it because of 9/11?
That was the U.S. justification for it.
But it wasn't for 9/11. So what was the actual reason?
Well, the U.S. government told us it was for 9/11. They told us that they were part of it, that they had weapons of mass destruction.
But they knew they had
all
nothing to do with 9/11, obviously.
Maybe
There's no
not.
evidence.
But I'm
so
telling
what
you
was
that
the actual
Israel was
reason?
not in that component. But
Israel had no influence on our decision to invade Iraq. That's not what the people who made the decision say. They say Israel.
Well, let me get back to the point.
Gave us that information about the fake weapons of mass destruction. Where do you think that came from? It came from Bibi.
How many Americans put their boots on the ground for Israel? The answer is zero.
Everybody who served in Iraq put their boots on the ground for Israel.
Did not.
Where did we get the information about the weapons of mass destruction that wasn't real?
We didn't get that from. You're saying we got that from Israel? That Israel was one pushed us into that?
Well, absolutely.
You really believe that?
I know that for a fact. And so does every. Yes, this has been widely written about and discussed. And I'm not attacking Israel. Like, they thought it was in their interest to take out a government that was paying the families of suicide bombers. I get it. I'm not mad at Israel about that. I never have been. I'm mad at the Bush administration and all the people who went along with this to the detriment of my country. That's who I'm mad at, not Israel. Bibi's doing what he can for his country, whether you agree with him or not. I want my leaders to do the same for my country. That's it.
You know, that's a really good point. And it's actually tough to understand, which is to try to put look, our country does some crappy things, right? But for the most part, we're like, yeah, let's go. I mean, it's USA. It's in our best interest. I think that's what gets so frustrating. And so it's easy to kind of, to some extent, point at the whore that's sleeping with your husband, because he's, the husband's got actually a lot of problems. She's doing her job, right? But he, at some point, Trump, our government, should maybe just stick with their wife, okay? Quit whoring around. I get it. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, this is actually very, I was going to bring this up. Tucker's psychopathic laughing really undercuts his arguments, though. I agree with him. Right. The way he does that, he just did right there, Alan. Exactly the point. Thank you. That was a really good point. Okay, let's keep going here. This one pushes Huckabee on Israel's harboring of American fugitives. There was a few things. This one, I want to hold off on that one right there. 14-year-old Hamas operatives. Let's play this one because I haven't got to this part in the interview yet. Now, I will also say he pushes Huckabee on a few things. One is he talks about Abrahamson, or the guy that the Israeli in cyber. By the way, this is why you have to. I forgot about this. He asks Huckabee about pedophiles getting refuge in. Running away from America and getting refuge in Israel. And Huckabee is like, I don't know what it's like, do you feel as ambassador you should be doing anything about it? And he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And he's like, and then Huckabee goes, oh, you're talking about the guy in Las Vegas? Oh, so you do know. Okay. Yeah. The guy in Las Vegas that got caught for trying to hook up with a young kid, 15, 14-year-old, and then decides to just leave back. Why? Because he's head of like cybersecurity in Israel. And now he's over there and he's not going to go back. Now you think of him, Tucker, talking about all this in the interviews. Okay. He's bringing all this stuff up in the interviews and he's ripping it. And he's in there in part of the airport, there's monitoring going on. This guy is probably watching this interview take place live, hearing this. You don't think that's why these things happen? Like his people were detained. You've got to be like dumb as Huckabee right there, thinking that Israel had nothing to do with 9/11. Okay. Then he talks to him about the Epstein files. And he's like, I don't know anything about the Epstein files. Oh no, I haven't read anything. That's still going on in America. That's the kind of, I'm 6,000 miles away. That's literally what he says about the 6,000 miles. Now, Tucker has to come back to this because he's like, yeah, but I mentioned something at TPUSA about Mossad being involved and you said there's no evidence. So if you're saying there's no evidence, now that files are out, is there evidence, can you, and it blows me away how dumb some of these people are. Huckabee. Let's play this one. I haven't played this one.
I wish that none of those people in Gaza had been killed after October the 8th. Well, I say not none of them. I'm glad Mohammed Sinwar was killed. I'm glad that some of those warriors, the people who masterminded and carried out the atrocities of October 7th.
14-year-old Hamas operatives, how do you feel about their deaths?
If they participated in that, then God help them. I'm telling you,
what does
Tucker,
that mean, God help
I don't know that they were 14 years. No, but I'm telling you that when someone commits the acts of atrocity and then they hold hostages, if these were your children being held hostage in Gaza, what would you do to get them out?
I wouldn't want to kill 14-year-olds. I'll tell you that.
Let me ask you something. Would you do whatever it took to get your kids back if they were being tortured, raped, starved, and beaten?
I would not kill children, period.
Well, I'm just telling you.
And I would never make excuses for killing children either.
And I'm not talking about targeting children. I'm talking about...
You told me that 14-year-olds deserve to die because they were working for Hamas.
I'm telling you...
My question is, can you hear yourself?
I do hear myself.
So do you think a 14-year-old child has agency? Do you think that he deserves to die because he's being used by adults? Isn't his death a crushing tragedy?
If he's holding a gun and he's pointing it at someone who's trying to save a hostage, and the only way to save that hostage... I'm telling you, war is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And a lot of innocent people
I'm the one who thinks war is a horrible thing.
No. I think what you don't
I'm trying to explain how horrible it is, and you're saying that the 14-year-old deserved to die.
Okay. That you may feel that's because that's almost on the edge of like, but I don't know that I have, because Tucker brings up a point there about agency, right? And you've got to really think, putting yourself in perspective. I mean, if you take out my family, or my kids are left here, I don't know what they'd be doing. But if we're all dead and the neighbors killed him because the neighbor's Muslim, he might take up arms against them. I'm just saying. Okay. Mike Huckabee gets uncomfortable while failing to explain his stance on Israel's rights.
You've spent a lot of time thinking about
this. This one is a decent one. Let's go here.
You've spent a lot of time thinking about the right of the Jewish people to their homeland. Do the Irish have the same right to a homeland?
I think Tucker should have used Native Americans in this example. It's just a little bit easier, partly because Native Americans, they've been here before us, and that's kind of what you're saying. Maybe their scripts, their religious scripts, that they have a right to this land from sea to shining sea, which reminds me, I need to find something here in a little bit. But yeah, let's keep playing.
As long as they can defend it, and as long as they,
as long as they can defend it.
But Tucker, here's the point.
Wait a second.
I'm telling you.
Wait, hold on. Now you just flipped out. You're the minister here.
Yeah, and I'm telling you.
As long as they can defend it.
And
if they can't defend it, they lose
allowing me
the
to
right.
tell you that I think that what is very, very special here is that there is a biblical, as well as an ethnic, and a historical. So you can take any one, but if you add them all together, biblical, historical, and ethnic, you have a very strong case that the Jewish people are living in a land that is indigenous to them, that has been their historic homeland for 3,800 years.
You can repeat it
and you can also look in the archaeology. The stones cry out.
Okay.
You've been to the city of David, for example.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know then that,
and I love it.
It's an amazing place. It may be the greatest archaeological discovery in all of history because it's stunning. And they still continue to find things that date the Jewish people to this land archaeologically for 3,800 years.
We can date the British people to their land much longer, thousands of years longer. Stonehenge is 3,000 years older than any building built by the descendants of Abram in this country. And so it's fine. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's right. I'm just wanting you to affirm that right, but it makes you uncomfortable and you won't. And I don't know why.
Because I've never honestly sat down and asked myself, are the lines around the
It's an
United
island, so we know what the
Kingdom-
lines are.
I'm saying, but are those lines, are those rooted in something other than the historical connection? Well, great, then they should have it. But
And
that's
they have
a
a
question.
right to have it. But then you said if they can defend it, and if they can't defend it, they lose the right.
But I didn't say it was exclusive one or the other. I think you're really going off the trail.
I just want to know if these principles apply universally or if they only apply to the people of Israel. And my answer appears to be just the people of Israel. They're the only ones with these rights, and I just reject that.
Here's why, and Jim had put this in here, but it's not shown. Let's see if I can do it on the full chat. No, let's do it this one. This is kind of gay. 14-year-old bad, but if he's 24, it's on. So I'm not really, maybe you can explain what you mean by that, Jim. Not really fully following you. I mean, look, there's bad kids out there, right? 14-year-olds doing stuff, but let's say, do you try them as adults? That's a little bit different, I think, than this situation that you have here, which is if you're quote unquote government, because that's what the Israelis want to say, that Hamas is in charge. If your government's making you do stuff, joining the military as an example, do you really have much say? It's not like mom, excuse of like, well, mom's just not in the picture or dad, and so I was brought up on the streets. Okay, maybe it's similar. I don't know. It's just a little bit. I get maybe 14 wouldn't be the best choice there. Because I'm kind of in the middle on that one even. So anyway, that's what's here's. I'm just gonna play this. Look at this because I don't want to play all these long quotes here, but this one is Tucker and him talking about. This is the quotes here from Tucker. Why are millions of Epstein files still classified? I haven't kept up with that. U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee flip-flops on Tucker, presses him on Epstein files. Huckabee, I said there's no evidence that Epstein had ties to Mossad. Tucker, well, there's quite a lot of bit of evidence, but you haven't apparently bothered to read any of the files. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, solid stuff. Okay, this one. Yeah, that one I don't want to. This one is interesting. A biblical right to the Middle East. I have a real hard time trying to follow, people that are talking about biblical rights to the middle to the place over there, because that's just not how the world works. I'm sorry. You can say that all you want, but that's really not. You don't get to just give up. As an example, if you have it, although this is exactly what's happening there, which is someone has a house, they have their place over there, and then someone from New York says, look, here's the deed. It's a biblical right to this. Now, Tucker points out a good thing here, which is the land that was promised in Genesis is actually a lot more. It's Jordan. It's all these other areas. And then Huckabee's just not okay with that. Say Zionism isn't Christian. Make that point. That's what I want from Tucker. Say Zionism isn't Christian. Have you watched it? Because he does work his way through that. And this is what's frustrating, though, about Huckabee, which is Huckabee starts out with this idea. Look, because he says, what is, Tucker says Christian Zionism. And so he's like, well, we've got to define things here. So he goes to define Christian. That's easy. Zionism. This is where part of the problem, like for 30, 40 minutes, Huckabee just says, well, it's that the people have a right to exist. The state of Israel has a right to exist. Okay. So that's where Tucker's going on and on, talking about, Ireland and does every state have a right to exist? And then so there's a legal aspect to this, and then there's this biblical aspect. And I think that's where the problem is. Here's my problem with you can say, I don't believe that the Zionists, because then they say you're anti-Semitic if you're not full on Zionist. The problem is many Zionists that you see, full-fledged ones here, is if you're not gung-ho about the state of Israel, matter of fact, remember, it's also anti-Semitic to criticize the state of Israel, okay? So, Randy Fine, all this stuff, it's so mixed in, and so it's easy to twist everything. And so my problem is, even the Zionist stuff, you want to label me anti-Zionist? Fine. That's perfectly what it is. Because I take that as someone who is a supporter of the state of Israel. That's really what I see as a Zionist. And I'll say this, there's many Jews, or the Orthodox ones, Rabbi Shapiro as an example, that don't claim that that's what the definition is. So it's up in the air. So we can all make it. Matter of fact, if you saw the one rabbi that was on there with Candace Owens, I'm trying, not Shmuley, but it was I don't remember his name. He said, you can't define, as an example, what anti-Semitism is. Only Jews do. And by the way, it changes all the time. There you go. There you go. Okay, let's play this clip here.
You've appealed to Genesis. Genesis 15 says it's Abram, it's pre-Abraham, it's Abram, receives from God the news that his descendants will inherit the land. And you tell me as the theologian if I'm getting this wrong, but from the Euphrates to the Nile. I think that's right. And that would include like basically the entire Middle East. That would be the Levant. So that would be Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. It would also be big parts of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. It would be, I mean,
I'm not sure it would go that far. I mean, it would be a big piece of land, but here's the point.
It would be a lot of places that are now countries.
But this particular area that we're talking about now, Israel, is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose. We can look at it that way. Christian Zionism, I want to go back because that's where we started on this.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
Okay. He does recant that to some extent there, but that is, it's circular and it's problematic. I got to look something up here. So if you guys know who Bibi Netanyahu's son is, Bibi Netanyahu, there we go, son. See if I could find out. There it is, Yar. Okay. This is what's interesting, which is Huckabee at one point says, you know, when they say from the river to the sea, it's the annihilation of the Jews. That's simple what it is. And Tucker's like, well, I don't know. We need to get into that because now you're reading into their minds. And he's like, no, everyone who says that, that's what they mean. However, here is Netanyahu's son. And what is on his Twitter bio? From the river to the sea, this flag is all you'll see. Okay, so it's such a hypocrisy, right? That this person here will say this kind of shit, and if you say it and you mean something differently, like maybe the Jews aren't the ones you want there, then you deserve to be I don't know, condemned. Let's go to this one, and I think maybe we'll end here. This is.
And spin.
We started this show talking about Jonathan Pollard, and if you don't know, Jonathan Pollard sold secrets to the Israelis. He's a Jew in the American he's in top secret stuff. They said it would feel like a giant room. It was millions of pages of stuff. He sells them in the 80s to, I think it was 84, to Israel. They end up then selling them to release Jews that are captured in Soviet Union. He then, the Israelis sell the secrets over to them. I think it was nuclear secrets and stuff. Pretty heavy stuff, okay? He gets convicted, put in jail, and then is supposed to have life, doesn't serve life, ends up then getting out and being able to leave to Israel, gets flown over there by Adelson and his wife, gets met on the tarmac. I played, once again, that episode. What episode is this here? There we go. Let's take a look here because I actually, there's Jonathan Pollard giving interviews. I think I can find the clip here of him getting off the airport, getting dropped off. Where is it at? Tucker Carlson, Substack. There we go. There it is. So Jonathan Pollard's met at the airport by Netanyahu. He gets down, he kisses the ground because he's so in love with it. And that's Jonathan Pollard. And then he goes and meets with Huckabee over there in the at the embassy. And this is what Huckabee has to say about it.
Pollard did something that was terribly wrong. He sold secrets. He shouldn't have done it. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison and spent 30. Actually, I think he was sentenced to maybe more than 30 years, but he spent 30 years in prison. Most people convicted of something similar, which was one count, I believe, would have spent 2 to 4, but he spent 30. I don't have a problem with him spending 30 because I think what he did was despicable. I'm not defending anything about.
I'm sorry. I just read Jim's post here. Maybe I misunderstood it. You want him to say it's not Christian, which I would agree. I think that's not necessarily, and I haven't listened to the whole interview, so maybe he says that at some point. Maybe he gets to that point. I think this is what's a good interview, is pushing these people to say what they think. I mean, he just got Huckabee, we saw in the last quote, to say, yeah, take Jordan, yes, they have a right to it. And then he goes, well, later on, he goes, whoa. They don't want that. But that's not what you're claiming. You're claiming a legal right to something, all this area, but why don't they have a right to that area then? Because you're crazy, okay? And I want people to understand, if you're not a Christian, and just because this guy is a pastor and he's now an ambassador, doesn't mean that he is correct, okay? We are not at least me as a Christian, I'm not part of the papacy. I mean, I'm not Catholic. I don't believe that the Pope, I believe he's fallible. Okay, maybe, I don't know, Catholicism, maybe you do too. My point is, no one's speaking for me, okay? I've got a pipeline straight to God. I don't have to go through to anybody. This wacko here does not speak for my truths and my biblical beliefs, so you don't have to as well. Yes, okay, good. Glad we're on that point. I think, Jim, you're completely right. It would be nice. Maybe he says it. I think it's also good to just have an interview where you push people to make them make the points that are so obviously incorrect or crazy, or that they don't know what they're talking about, that's an effective interview. And I don't know, I'm working my way through this. I think it is anti-Christian to believe this, probably because, as you know, there's this, no, because it's when he talks about Netanyahu and such, and it's the religious, the God, the people. It's like, okay, but there's a bunch of atheists, Jews, that get to have this right. So is it God promising it to them just because they've converted? You don't make any sense. Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. You can't hold all these same truths to be equal, but you get there somehow.
About what he did. But even people
Jonathan
like
Pollard,
the former director of the CIA, a number of other senators on the Senate Foreign Relations of the Senate Intel Committee said that he should be allowed to leave and move to Israel if he wanted to. So it, to me, was not as big a deal that I had this basically courtesy meeting. He wanted to thank me for being nice.
Would you have a courtesy meeting with Assange? Okay, Assange has been released, he's fine. Would you have a courtesy meeting with him? Because you said he should be put to death earlier. Okay, I'm only comparing those two. I don't think Assange is anywhere near the same as Jonathan Pollard. I think Jonathan Pollard is just despicable. And what Assange did, you can at least make arguments that, one, you can say it's heroic on one side. You can, on the other side, say it's not so much. I think there's, that line you can straddle kind of somewhere in the middle. But to say the extremes might not be right on either side. But he was just given info. He was dispersing, stuff out for both sides. He was showing the utter hypocrisy of our national officials.
To him when his wife died. That's pretty much the story.
You advocated for his release when you ran for, I remember it, in 2011, long before he had served 30 years. And I agree with you that there are a lot of people languishing in prison, in our country and in this country, many countries, for longer periods than they deserve. And I think it's a Christian impulse to want to see them free. But this was the greatest traitor in modern American history who sold our battle plans against the Soviet Union, our main enemy in the Cold War, to the Israeli government, which, according to our Reagan CIA director, Bill Casey, then gave them to the Soviet Union. So this was the most profound betrayal of the United States in my lifetime. Why advocate for that guy's release before he serves his full sentence?
If that were the case in 2011, it would have been because I had a number of friends that suggested that he had more than served time, and he didn't.
Who are those friends? Who are those friends? I wish Tucker, this is the, for the most part, he always interrupts and he pushes. I want to know who those friends are. Who are those friends? Is it Bibi Netanyahu? Is it Ehud Barak or whoever, the Mossad guys? Who are these friends? Who are these friends? You just said earlier you're like wonderful friends with like what is it, the someone else in the government there. Who are these friends?
Want to live in the U.S. anymore. He wanted to live in Israel, and but my association with him, again, I had never met him until I met him in Jerusalem at a hotel. That was the first time I had ever encountered him.
I'm friends with 1 million bad people, or I've talked to 1 million bad people.
I'm sitting here with you. I mean, come on.
I mean, she's the same with tax collectors. So I trust me, do not judge people who are friends or know or enjoy the company of immoral people, because it's not an endorsement of their immoral behavior. Pollard is different, I think.
Yeah, but you're a government official. You are representing the United States in the country he has gone to. This is no small detail of just like, I was on, I met Epstein or something like that, right? Well, that's bad too now. Or I just, had a dinner with this person or Trump or whatever. This is you as an American official. It's not even doing it like I was at a party and he was there and he came up to me. What am I going to do? Huckabee states here, well, maybe I shouldn't spoil it, but it's not a secret meeting. It had to be arranged.
Once you become U.S. ambassador, the representative of the President of the United States and the United States of America in a foreign country, and then you invite not only the most damaging betrayer in our lifetimes, but also a guy who continues to advocate for betrayal. So he gave an interview, as I know you know, in 2021 to Israeli media, in which he said, I would encourage Jewish Americans with security clearances to spy for Mossad against their own country, the United States, because, and I'm pretty much quoting him, all Jews should have dual loyalty. That's not repentance. That's not someone who feels bad about what he did. That's someone who's encouraging American Jews to betray their country. That's pretty heavy, don't you think?
Oh, I do. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think, let's remember, it was President Trump who probably facilitated his departure. And
yes,
I'm certainly supportive of President Trump. I think you are. And
Pollard's not. He called him a madman after your meeting.
That's why I say Pollard is not, for me, the real issue. It was the fact that he did something that was despicable. I'm not denying that. Of course he did. And he paid dearly for it, 30 years in prison, and he should have. That's what he should have done. No question about that.
But why meet with him in the U.S. Embassy? Your colleagues said they were shocked. They said...
Who were the colleagues that said they were shocked?
Quoted on Background in the New York Times. I think the meeting was in August. This could all be fake. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, the same New York Times said it was a secret meeting. And I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a secret meeting.
Huckabee, okay, there's no such thing as a secret meeting, which means you were willing to do this. And not only that, but you had to put it on calendar. You had to get this scheduled. This wasn't a haphazard... secret might almost be better, because you can at least claim at that point, look, it just happened. I didn't know it was going to happen. It wasn't even on a calendar. No, it was not secret, Tucker. You know how you can't just come into I know, because we had to meet in an airport to even do this interview. It's not an easy thing to do, which means you scheduled this with him. How did that happen? Oh, yeah, I remember. Mark Levin's stepson is like the person that works right under you. Okay, a dual loyalty much?
The U.S. Embassy.
Do you see why the U.S. ambassador hosting a convicted betrayer of his own country who's encouraging Americans to continue to betray their country would seem shocking?
Well, I would say...
Before you answer that, I understand he said they should still betray him. I played a video in, I should probably say which episode it is here, episode 283, that... 283 that Jonathan Pollard actually in an interview says that they should have been dropping nukes on the United States. Crazy.
That it wasn't that you make it sound like I'm hosting a meeting. I simply met with him. I meet with people all the time.
Some of them just walk in without a...
No, they have to have an appointment. Of course they do.
Oh, so it is hosting him then, I think.
Well, I don't know if it was hosting, but it was certainly, he was able to come to the U.S. Embassy to have a meeting at his request. I did. And frankly, I don't regret it.
God, the way they cut these videos with these guests is outrageous. Okay, so I'm gonna finish watching the interview. If there's more clips and stuff, of course I'll throw them in again. But look at this, fake beer over here. That's what I've been drinking, fake beer all week. Athletic Brewery, Run Wild. But not tonight, folks. We're going to go. Hi, JC. Okay, so basically, JC tunes in right as we're finishing up perfectly. That's about all we have for today. Let's see if there's any other. Nope, I don't think there's any other clips I wanted to really get to. There's good ones. I'm going to keep going through this. Oh, here's one last one that they just posted out. As we're doing this, we'll finish with this one. I haven't seen this part at all. This will be the last one, and then we can go off for the weekend. Here we go. 3 minutes, 35 seconds. U.S. Ambassador Israel Mike Huckabee makes the shocking claim that Israel's IDF is more humane than the United States military. Once again, the Espionage Act is not good enough. Treason is what we really need to have with these people, convicting them. This guy, once again, let's play this and see if this is more defensive of Israel. Is he more defensive of Israel, the U.S.? Is he more defensive of Israel than he is of Putin of Russia? I think that's the claim.
Israel goes to links that no other country, including ours, goes to in the middle of an urban war, and yet Israel ended up with fewer civilian deaths in an urban war than any urban war of record.
You said you didn't know how many civilian deaths there were, so how can you say that?
If you took Gaza's numbers, Hamas's numbers,
you said you
it would
don't know what
still
the numbers are.
We don't.
You just told me that. Then
But
how
I'm
can you
saying
say
if
it's a
you
lower
took-
number?
But if you took the numbers that they reported, which is like 50,000, 25,000 of those were actual warriors. How many civilians? If you
I
took
think the
all of their
numbers
numbers,
range from 120 to 78. Those are the ones I just read. I don't know if that's real. I don't know either. I'm
those
asking
are,
you.
Yeah,
You're the
and I'm
US
telling
ambassador.
you, those numbers I've not heard, have not read. The numbers that I think are more reportable are somewhere in the 60,000 range.
Where do those come from?
From the Gaza Health Ministry,
But you
which
said
is
those were
Hamas.
invalid numbers.
I think they are. I don't think that they're accurate, but I'm saying let's
You're
just
saying
assume,
they're inaccurate, but they prove that Israel's doing a great job?
Let's assume that the most widespread numbers, the largest numbers that have been reported out of Gaza by Hamas,
yes,
let's assume they're true. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they are true, but assume they're true. Let's just take them at their word. Then you still have a lower number.
Here's part of the problem, though, that I find out, which is you've got the total decimation of this land. Okay, so maybe your parents and your sister were killed. Okay, that's part of the number, but your entire existence is wiped out. I mean, the house, everything just destroyed. There's an economic cost to some of this as well. It's crazy. How many years have the Ukraine war and how many civilian deaths? That I don't personally know. I don't know. Are you asking me or are you asking Huckabee? Let's finish this off.
Of civilians killed and in any urban warfare environment in modern history.
I just think it's outrageous for someone like Huckabee to be making these claims when he just says, I don't know the numbers, but I'm going to say it's the most. It's the most. Why would you say that? Because it's a propaganda story.
Fact.
Is that a fact?
Yes.
What are you comparing it to?
To any urban warfare.
Name one.
Iraq.
Where in
Afghanistan?
Iraq? Where in Iraq? Where in Afghanistan? There aren't many urban areas in Afghanistan. I don't think there was any fighting in urban areas in Afghanistan.
Kabul?
I don't know. Were there pitched battles in Kabul over long periods of time? I don't.
20 years.
In Kabul? I don't.
Throughout all of Afghanistan.
But what were those rates?
You're talking about what are the rates there? The number of people who were killed into the tens of thousands. I'm asking you to.
I don't know the answer.
This is amazing because what Huckabee normally does, he just sits back and he spouts. People, this is the kind of shit we want with Trump. This is the shit we want with Biden. You want people pushing these kind of things. But the problem is, if someone pushes against Trump like this, they're left-wing media, right? They're pathetic left-wing media. If you push them against them from the Biden, oh, there's a lot of gotchas. And then the other side's like, oh, well, those are stupid, Fox News things. So this is the problem we have. So this, I like the fact that the right winger is in there with a personal, connection with Ambassador Huckabee, but he's able to push him on bullshit because Huckabee just sits there. First of all, you've got him just saying to his right wing audience whatever the fuck he wants, and they just like, oh yeah, it sounds great. You used to be fat, now you've lost weight. That's amazing. You play the bass guitar. That's amazing. And then he says this shit about Israel, which they spew all the time. And he's on Fox News and no one cares. They're just like, yeah, this is great. Well, that's what's happening. That must be true. And the reality is, I don't know, is it? But I start to have doubts when this is how he's defending it, right? You just say something and then we're supposed to believe it. But shouldn't you at least have something to back it up with? It's like, oh, this video shows Tucker was completely lying. There's no timestamp on that, and it's a 22-second video. That didn't show us shit. But you're able to
Never heard of any of this. You brought it up. You said the IDF has killed a lower proportion of civilians in urban warfare than in any urban conflict in modern history. I'd never heard that before. I don't know what are the controls for that. And you said, well, the U.S. military killed more civilians.
Would you agree that the real tragedy was that Hamas continued to force this war?
Hold on. You just once again said that the IDF is more humane than the United States military. You just said that. You said in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military killed more civilians than the IDF did in Gaza. You just told me that. I never heard that before. And my question is, how do you know that? What are those numbers?
And I'm trying to explain to you that there were extraordinary efforts to keep the number of
numbers, do you?
I think they were tens of thousands. I'll get them for you.
Well, you brought it up. That's the only reason I'm pushing you.
I'm wearing a flag. I work for a country, and you pretended or alleged that somehow I'm not loyal to this and that I'm criticizing my own country, and I'm not.
They did a better job than the U.S. military in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I said, what are the numbers? And you said, I don't know. So on what basis are you making?
Oh my God, this is like, and yes, SM2049 says, watching this from the very beginning will be surprised when you hear my name in an hour as a reply. Yeah, welcome. Glad you're doing it. I like that too. I'm sorry, catch things live or the premiere and you want to start them from the beginning. So sorry, we're already joining in progress. This is like arguing with a woman. Or man. I mean, it's like a spousal argument. Wait. You just said, why are you now talking about the chickens? I don't understand how we got here. Huckabee.
In the claim that the IDF in Gaza spared more civilians than the U.S. Army and Marine Corps did in Afghanistan and Iraq. Why are you saying that? Like, on what basis are you saying that?
From the conversations that I've had with the people who fought there. And I don't have the exact numbers for you.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of this thing. Thanks for everybody for coming in. We got Jim in here, SM2049. We had JC and a few others, Alan and other ones. Okay, let's go. That's all we have for today. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying it because I'm not a fan of the Zio and the Goy slop that we're getting thrown around. This interview proves to me why the initial shit came out taken on Tucker. This interview is detrimental, as I predicted, and not as bad as the other one, but as I predicted. As a lawyer, have you ever had to release a statement to the press from one of your wealthy clients? No, I have not had to get involved in the press shit. I've only had a few wealthy, a lot of wealthy clients, but famous clients are usually the ones you have to deal with. And as an attorney of family law, most of the family law stuff is not out there. I had one, I've had a professional basketball player. I've had baby mama of a Niners player, but we actually filed motions to keep everything out, kind of like us. And by the way, if you have kids, you're almost always not going to be having any of that stuff out there. So no, I haven't had to do that. So all right, start from the beginning. Love you guys all. Have a great weekend. Glad you guys joined up in here. Come on, we're going to keep pushing this thing. Like, subscribe, go over to, let's see if I can find it here again, tyleryonke.substack.com for all your necessary needs and everything you want. Outro coming up. See ya.
Okay, I'm leaving now.
But she's back.
And now.
Tyler, if you had any clout about you, if you had any knowledge of the real world,
none of us are screaming, "Let's kill Tyler."
Tyler says, "My
Jewish princess."
You low key, you're one of the funniest dudes in the Liberty world that I know.
More or less, eat shit and die.
He's just a podunk lawyer somewhere in rural California. He's an idiot, really.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
Do you see what he just did to Tyler?
I feel like you don't get the appreciation for your humorous wit.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?